Hey, Vinyl community, welcome to another Thursday night roundtable discussion. Tonight, I am joined once again by my best friends on the VC, Chris Profi, musically obsessed, Gary, physical format rock and roll, JC, Flipside vinyl, and of course, Aaron Mutha Alamere. Tonight, we are going to be talking about kind of a unique topic. We're going to be talking about our top 5 favorite number 2 tracks on an album. So basically, the second track on an album, our top 5 favorites. And the thing about a second track, I was thinking about that today, is, you know, in some cases, you have such an amazing opening track on an album that the second track sometimes is just kind of like, we're going to cool things down. We're going to kind of shift tempos, or we're going to go kind of in an opposite direction from the way the first track went. But in other cases, and that's in some cases the case for a couple of my songs that I've chosen, the first track is, you know, maybe a little underwhelming, but then the second track just kind of knocks you over the head. The second track totally, is amazing. And so I think we'll see quite a bit of variety in the tracks that we've chosen. So we're choosing again our top 5 number 2 songs that fall in terms of the track listing. And so we're going to start things off with Mr. Chris Profi, your number 5.
All right, off of this album, I'm going with the Rain song. Which, yeah, I've always loved that song. It's probably one of the prettiest songs that Led Zeppelin did. And a lot of times you don't say pretty with Led Zeppelin, but the guitar work, Robert Plant's vocals, even the lyrics. I remember as a kid, I think it's the inner sleeve has the lyrics on it. And the Rain song, along with the first song, The Song Remains the Same, it's basically like poetry. And a lot of times the thing with Zeppelin is you're reading these lyrics and you're like, what the hell is Robert Plant singing about? But it's just it's the lyrics and the music. And I think following that first track, The Song Remains the Same, which is, like Jeff, you were saying, is kind of in your face. It's one of those first songs that just kind of gets you right away. They settle things down with the Rain song, and it's sort of a nice way to catch your breath a little bit. But it does pick up towards the end, and it's been one of my favorite Zeppelin songs. I don't really know. I'm trying to think, like, if you ever hear it on the radio. I don't think you do, which is a good thing. But yeah, I think it's just a great number 2 song.
Well, you know, Chris, you and Josh are both Smiths fans, and I always wondered, like, if Johnny Marr kind of took that guitar, that signature guitar sound from the Rain song and used it for As Soon As Now, because it sort of got a similar, kind of thing that flows through it. And I always wondered, I wonder if Johnny Marr took that from Jimmy Page from the Rain song, just because it's sort of that signature sound, that you hear in that track. So I don't know, but Rain song.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could have been an influence. Yeah, I mean, this album opens up with The Song Remains the Same and the Rain song, and then they go right into Over the Hills and Far Away. And then another one of my favorite Zeppelin songs. I know this is track number 4. I know we're talking about the second track. But I want to talk about, I'm talking about the 4th track here for a second. Crunch is severely underrated. That song is killer. So when we do a video on the 4th song of an album,
well, I feel like the crunge is very polarizing. I feel like there's people who think, yeah, it's very cool, like it's a James Brown kind of funky little track, and then there's people that are like, I fucking hate that track. That track is garbage.
Well, I'll tell you what, those people are dead to me because I love that song.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, we're not here to talk about 4th track, so don't let off track. So Gary, what is your number 5?
Well, geez, I almost hate to talk now. Chris starts out with Led Zeppelin, so but it's like, where the fuck do I go from there? But what I picked for my first number 2 is off my favorite Cheap Trick album, which is Heaven Tonight, and the song On Top of the World. That's just a great song. It kind of goes along the line of this album. It's got like some really hard rocking parts in the song, and then there's other parts that are just very melodic in it. Robin Zander just sounds awesome in it. I love it. You know, when they go, tonight, you're on top of the world and you can't get any higher. You're on top of the world tonight. It wasn't easy. It was hard as hell. It's such a great song. I love it. And, you know, this song starts off with Surrender, right? One of their biggest hits. And so it's going to take a really good song to follow up with that. And to me, Top of the World does it. I just think that's a great song. I love it just as much as I do Surrender. So that's my first number 2 pick.
You ever notice how they put the 2 best looking guys on the front of every Cheap Trick album, and then the other?
Oh yeah, that's their whole thing. You know, they put the other guys on the back, and they put Tom and Robin on the front.
Yeah,
that was their trademark for quite a while.
Well, you wonder if they only found out when the album hit the record store. Hey, where am I?
Buddy Carlos.
You guys are on the back.
Always on the back.
Well, and Buddy Carlos is so sexy. I he wasn't, on the front cover, but whatever, you know.
What's funny is Buddy Carlos looked like he was 50 when he was 30. He just never really changed.
Yeah, he looked like the guy at the record store that was selling you the Cheap Trick album.
It's gonna be a long video.
So before I do my pick, I'd also like to say I had no idea Chris was going to pull out Houses of the Holy, one of the greatest albums of all time.
It's my favorite
Yeah, I mean,
Zeppelin album.
What the hell? All right. So everybody knows I love Aerosmith. Everybody knows I love 70s Aerosmith. But believe it or not, this to me is the greatest Aerosmith song after the 70s. So out of every song that they released from 1980 to today, this is my favorite song. FINE, which stands for fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. It is just a ball to the wall, kick-ass song full of sexual innuendos, where Steven Tyler is everything from talking about not wanting to pay for prostitution to, it's crazy. It's just an insane song. It's just so awesome. I love the music to the song. It's very fast-paced, very, I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like when Guns N' Roses Let's Loose. It's the best way to say it. And there's a break in the song where it's like a super fast song, but towards the end of the song, it slows down for a second. And he says, I feel like I'm hung up on a line. I'd die for you, but we were partners in this crime. Everything about you is so FINE, fine. And it just makes me feel so good. Like, this is a Friday night, I'm going out, I'm partying with the boys type of album I put on right before we go out. So yeah, it's just awesome. I love it. FINE, best Aerosmith song after the 70s, in my opinion.
I agree with.
Yeah.
Wow.
When
Yeah,
I first
dude looks like a lady, huh?
Yeah, well, when I first got that record, first time I heard it, like when it first came out, that's the song that grabbed me, and that's always been my favorite on there.
Me too, Aaron. I feel like we were separated at birth. I was like, I heard the album, and I remember being like, I can't wait to hear that again. Like that one song. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, I just got paid today. Got me a pocket full of checks. my first one from my favorite ZZ Top record. The second track is Just Got Paid. One of their most iconic songs, one of my favorite ZZ Top songs. I even have a version by Mastodon, which is pretty cool. But I just love that song. It's just the gritty ZZ Top that I love. Second album they did, second song for their second record. So I had to put that one. This whole album is great though. But Just Got Paid, who doesn't, everyone knows that song.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those songs, no matter how much you hear it, it's just so got that killer guitar and everything where you don't get sick of it. And it still kicks me every time I hear it. I love this record. And there's a great intro. Francine is a really great song to start on this. but then it just kicks it up a notch with Just Got Paid. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Wow.
easy.
Aaron, have you
Yeah.
ever heard the ZZ Top song from a few years ago, I Gots to Get Paid?
No, I haven't.
That's a killer song too.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
That
What
is
album
a
is that on?
killer song.
Maybe I do. Maybe I do have that.
It's on.
It's one
hold
because I
on.
got 29 lighters on my dresser. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I got to get paid. Yeah, it's so good.
It's the 70s, but I love the 80s ZZ Top, and I love their more current stuff as well. But
Oh,
this
yeah.
early ZZ Top, there's nothing quite like it to me. It's just, it's like, you know, everyone knows what it is. It's a bluesy Southern rock greatness they did. And
Great one.
Great
Yeah.
song. Great band.
Good pick.
It's not housing.
Jeff, your pick better be pretty good, Jeff.
It is,
Was that-
Gary. It is.
Well, here's the thing, guys. I haven't been on for a couple weeks, so I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm setting the bar high, so I'm going. None of this monkeys or Indigo Girls stuff.
No,
Going-
no Rod McEwen.
He's gonna do the Stones and the Beatles next. Really
Yeah.
fuck us over.
Got some Pink Floyd. Got some Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going with "She's Only Happy When She's Dancing." Brian Adams off the record album. No.
I like that album.
I do
bet you
too.
do. All right. No, like I said, mine's going to be fantastic. I am going with "Get Up" off of the Green album. Love this track. At one time, Michael Stipe said this was his favorite REM song, and damn it, I believe him. I love kind of those opening harmonies that start the track off, but I don't even know if you call them harmonies, but anyway, it's just a very unique track for REM, and it's heavy. But I like the fact, like kind of in the middle, they do a little bit of Pink Floyd Time, where you've got kind of all the music boxes that are kind of, you know, going off at the same time, and then it kicks into the chorus. But yeah, I think it's a super strong track. This is a great REM album. And this has always been my favorite song off of this album. And I love the dreamlike quality to it. I love the counterpoint to where Michael Stipe sings, you know, dreams, they complicate my life. And then the background harmonies are singing dreams, they complement my life, and the yin and the yang. But yeah, I think it's great. And, you know, it's ear candy for me. Always like that one. And
So what year did that come out, Jeff?
what's that?
What year did that?
1988.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if they got some influence from Van Halen on that. Get Up and Dreams, both in the same thing there.
We belong in a world that must be strong, or whatever the fuck they say. No, it's got nothing to do with that kind of dreaming. It's about dreaming, totally like the nighttime dreaming, not whatever bullshit Sammy Hagar was to sing to appeal to the ladies. I'm actually talking about dreams that you have. REM Sleep, which ties into the band's name, REM. So
Yeah.
cool, awesome. But
I like when Stipe's voice cracks in that song. I don't know if he makes it crack on purpose or if it's like an accident, but it's I like when that happens.
yeah, well, it might be one of those happy accidents where it's like, oh shoot, you know, my voice.
I think it cracks when he says
cracked.
dreams.
Aaron, I know you just got Out of Time, but I think you would like Green better than Out of Time. I really do. It's a fantastic album. Every song is great.
Never heard it the whole way through. I've heard songs from it.
And then you need Automatic for the People.
Oh yeah, that's a masterpiece too. To me, everything up to Monster is just fantastic.
I love Monster though.
I do. That's what I mean, including
Oh, okay.
Monster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, Chris, you're number 4, REM. I mean, all right, you're number 4, number 2.
Number 4, number 2.
That's
Come on,
right.
come on now, touch me,
Touch me,
baby,
baby.
and you'll see that I am not afraid.
Dun, dun, dun.
Is killer, and the track number 2 is Touch Me. So, you know, I don't know. It's a great song. I like it. I like that Jim Morrison is asking you to touch him.
I can see Chris having a date over to the house. He
Well,
just keeps
to be
playing that
accurate
song
now,
over
it's
and
actually
over.
it's actually Robbie Krieger asking you to touch Jim Morrison because he knew you were singing it. It's a great
Oh,
Robbie
wait,
Krieger.
Jim Krieger wrote it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But wait, Jim Morrison is singing it though. I'm right.
Yes, correct.
I was like, oh shit, did I like? Because sometimes what was it? Oh, it's that Pink Floyd album, "Wish You Were Here." Where what's the song that somebody else sings? I forget.
Oh yeah, the Have a Cigar.
Yeah, I never realized that somebody else sang that song.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
either
Yeah,
him
Roy
or Roger
Harper.
Waters.
Well, the funny thing about "Touch Me," that actually the original lyric was "Hit Me" because it was a argument that Robbie Krieger was having with his girlfriend, and that's why, come on, come on, come on, come on, hit me, babe. Can't you see that I'm not afraid?
Yeah.
I think Jim Morrison's like, whoa, let's soften this up a little bit, and I think he's the one who said, let's use "Touch Me." Let's not advocate,
Right.
but
Because, well, in that band, Jim Morrison was the voice of reason.
He was,
So,
which is scary. Because most of the time he had just got back from the desert on peyote.
yeah.
well, and
So-
that's actually the Soft Parade album is the first album where the Doors actually had
I didn't-
individual songwriting credits. Because the first song on that album is "Tell All the People," and there's
Right.
in there about something about come and get your guns or something like that Robbie Krieger had written. In fact, the first
Yeah.
tracks on there were written by Robbie Krieger, and Jim Morrison didn't want to be associated with that lyric. And so for the first time on a Doors album, they had individual songwriting composer credits on there.
I'm surprised Jim Morrison could sing as well as he did, because it's like, all right, guys, I just got back from the desert. I'm still coming down from peyote, and the vocal lines that they weren't simple vocal lines. And Jim Morrison just came out of him. He was a natural. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm with the story, but
I
He's
like how his voice. Some people say his voice deteriorated. I think like his voice matured. It got a
Yeah.
little bit more harsh as the albums progressed, but I liked it. I enjoyed it.
yeah, he put more weight on, so he was like he had a beefier,
Right.
texture to his voice.
He had a little bit more of a fat guy voice.
This is the Modelo talking, by the way.
I think his voice, I think his voice did deteriorate a bit, but I also feel like it fits LA Woman perfectly.
Yeah.
That album. Yeah, his voice fits that, and they could have made some more stuff with his voice sounding that way.
Yeah.
More
It's funny.
bluesy.
With LA Woman, I put that on my Christmas list as a kid one year. And my mom's like, so you want this album La Woman? I'm like, no, Mom, it's not La Woman, it's LA Woman.
Mr. Mojo Rising.
Mr.
Dang it, Mom.
Mojo Rising.
It's fantastic. One of the greatest songs of all time, in my opinion.
I never get tired of singing or hearing Touch Me.
It's a great one.
And was your mom's favorite track on there "LA America"?
It was actually The Changeling.
Okay.
Off of La Woman. Yeah.
All right,
Are
Gary.
you done, Chris?
You guys are like, oh, these videos were a lot shorter when Chris wasn't here. Blabbing away.
All right. So my number 2 pick will probably not be on your guys' list, but it comes off of this album, Tunnel of Love by Bruce Springsteen, the song Tougher Than the Rest.
Nice.
I don't know if you might, Bruce Springsteen has a nickname. He's called, some people call him the Boss. And part of it is because of these amazing lyrics that he writes. And this is an example. The song Tougher Than the Rest is him. They're simple lyrics, but they just express a great story of 2 characters that, he basically says, hey, we've both been around the block before. We're not a couple of kids here. And this woman that he's talking to, she's been burned before. And maybe she looks at Bruce as the kind of guy well, maybe you're just another creep, like the last guy, but he's saying I'm not. I might not look like it. I might not be a sweet talking Romeo kind of guy and all that. But you know what I am? I'm a faithful guy. I'm honest. I'm tougher than all these other shitheads that were there. I'll stick with you when things get going tough. I'm tougher than the rest. You can count on me. And I think it's a great love song in a way, because, not everybody, meets and marries their high school sweetheart, right? People have been through shit, different things. And that's what this song to me represents. It's about finding love after some other bad things have happened to you. So that's my number pick, is Tougher Than the Rest.
Gary, let me say that I had that on my list, but you'll see that I have a different Springsteen. So one Springsteen song beat out that one, but that was my second choice for Springsteen. And you're absolutely right. That line that he says, some girls want a handsome Dan or some good looking Joe. Some girls on their arm want a sweet talking Romeo. Well, around here, baby, you can get what you can get. But if you're looking for love, I'm tougher than the rest. And it's like, yeah, it makes you feel like, especially being 46, and I found myself single in my 40s, right? And I'm like, what the hell's going on? But you're like, yeah, like love doesn't always work out the way you want it to be. And that perfectly illustrates that. And during that time period, Springsteen was married and in love with a different woman. His marriage was falling apart, that he wrote that album. It's a masterpiece of an album. And to me, in his top 5 Springsteen albums, definitely.
I agree.
And I like the hype sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't normally happen for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one's there.
I wish I could explain songs as well as you guys do.
You do. You
No, Gary just went. I mean, the two of you, that was like a beautiful thing. You were just playing off of each other. It was great.
Me and Gary need to do a Springsteen video.
Yeah.
We can never stop working.
You do a great job on songs, Chris.
You're really good at remembering the lyrics too. I think you just recited like the whole freaking song. That was great.
He has memorable lyrics.
Springsteen. If you don't remember Springsteen's lyrics, you're not going to remember anybody's, right? All right. Yeah. So my next pick, I discovered in my teenage years, stealing my dad's records, and this song always takes me back to being a teenager. It's dark in parts, and it's whimsical in parts, and it's a little. I remember being a kid and you didn't know everything, right? You just wondered what was going to happen in your life. And it's on this album by Neil Young, and it's the title track, After the Gold Rush. This is one of my all-time favorite albums. The first song is Tell Me Why, which is equally as good. And then he goes into After the Gold Rush and just singing about adult things. And you have to remember, he was super young at this point. But I love that line where he's like, I was lying in a burned out basement with the full moon in my eye. I was hoping for a replacement when the sun burst through the sky. And it's like, I just remember, like, I used to go in my room and stay up all night with headphones on, listening to records so I wouldn't get in trouble. And it just, I don't know, it was so powerful. It affected me. It affected my musical choices. And I sometimes think, I'm like, man, I used to listen to Slayer, and Motley Crue, and Poison, and Neil Young, and Led Zeppelin. It was like, even at a young age, I was eclectic. And I think the lyrics definitely help. But After the Gold Rush, one of my all-time favorite songs. There you go.
Well, the way he sings it, there's such a vulnerability to the way that he sings the song too, and that kind of like falsetto, which for Neil Young, considering he came from a band where they didn't want him singing at all. They're like, away from the microphone. Neil, you got a terrible voice. Even though, like, obviously he's got one of the most distinctive voices in rock and roll, but it's not easy to put yourself out there and sing, let alone in that falsetto that he uses in that particular track. But I think it suits it so well because there is kind of an innocence also to the lyrics, and yet a mourning of the fact that all the ideals of the 1960s have kind of, come crashing down, and we're here trying to reconcile those ideals with, what we now know to be the repercussions of the Love generation. But, anyway, yeah, the great track.
Yeah, you would pick the REM song, and then Chris, you mentioned about Michael Stipe's voice cracking. Now Neil Young, his voice cracks at different times, and that's somebody I think it sounds awesome when his voice does that. You were talking about, Jeff, the falsetto that he does. Well, a lot of times his voice will crack, like when he goes, from a more normal voice to a falsetto, and it always adds to it. He's not what you would maybe necessarily classically say he's a really good singer, but he's so expressive when he sings, and he can tell a story like nobody.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That's actually my favorite Neil Young song. So I'm glad you picked that one.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, Aaron.
So,
Sweet FA.
although I was going to, I'm going to go with Rap Child from Iron Maiden Killers.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
Rap Child is, when I think of this album, that's the song you think of first, Rap Child. Just that
Yeah.
punk energy it has to it, and about as heavy as Iron Maiden got to this album, and it's just it's Rap Child. I'm a Rap Child, and I'm not driving to Grand Level. I think I need a beer.
Dang it.
Here.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Thanks. Yeah, but I've just always loved that song, and I was looking through all the Iron Maiden albums and going, what's the best second track on any of them? And I think it's Rothschild as the best second track on any of the Maiden records.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
since you're
a
talking Maiden,
perfect pick.
I almost showed this record.
The second track on that's good too.
The second track is Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. What I like about Killers, though, and I like it better than the debut.
And not me, but I do like Rothschild. Oh, hell of a
Well,
lot.
I do. I like Killers better than the debut. And I think I like it because you were saying it's heavier.
Mm-hmm.
It's more punk. It's got more of a punk influence to that album. And I also like it because there's some real deep cuts on there that they don't play at all anymore.
Yeah.
And Paul Di'Anno is he's all over that album.
Yeah, like Purgatory and Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drifter,
Love it.
Genghis Khan, all that stuff's great. And Another Life, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I love both Paul
Nothing
Di'Anno
against the
albums.
first album. I like the first album too, but I like Killers better.
They're both great. And that era of Iron Maiden's actually maybe my favorite, even better than the Dickinson era. I love the Dickinson era, and the Blaze Bayley, but there's something about the Paul Di'Anno. It's just that youthful energy they had. And it's almost like, I don't know, it just almost like this aggressive, like almost dangerousness to it that I really love.
Yes.
And yeah, and it's just when I was thinking of Maiden songs or the second tracks, that's the first one. I was like, Rap Child. That's the one. So
You described that era perfectly, Aaron.
Yeah.
And one more thing
And I
I think
love
is
it.
funny about that is that the new wave of British heavy metal, it was sort of like, we're the anti-punk.
mhm.
They had so many punk elements in their music though, still, which is funny.
Yeah. I think they got mad when people said they had punk elements, even though they did. Just
They did.
because,
Yeah.
that definitely got some.
All right. Well, my number 4 pick, I was certain Josh was going to pick this one, as we talked about before we started the video today. And so very happy that he did not, because I get to show it. And I am talking about Paranoid Android off the OK Computer album, Radiohead. This was a blind buy for me. I had not heard anything off this record when I bought it back in 1996 or whenever it came out. But I read it was a magazine, and I had read it, and they gave it a rave review. They said this album's incredible. And so I bought it, and that best blind buy that I ever bought, hands down. One of the things that I like about the second track on here is it's all the reasons why I love progressive rock so much is because, you know, a standard song, you've got verse, chorus, verse, maybe a bridge in there somewhere, and then you're back to the verse and the chorus, and then the song ends. But with this song really takes you on a journey, much in the way like my favorite Yes songs do, where it starts in one place and then it shifts. Now we're moving into a different theme, and then moving into a different theme, and now maybe we're revisiting a theme that was earlier, and now we're heavy, but now we're soft, and then we get heavy again, and then it's soft again, and then it gets heavy. You know, like all these ebbs and flows during the course of one track. And it's so, I mean, it is my favorite Radiohead song by a mile, just because it's so melodic. Every section is just so powerful. And I mean, it's one of these tracks that I listen to it and I just get such an emotional reaction to it. I mean, the hair on my arm stands up. And it's like, this is still amazing. Every time I hear it, I'm just blown away, and I never get tired of listening to it. I think it's brilliant. It reminds me of all my favorite progressive rock, you know, artists, from Pink Floyd to Yes, just the way that the song is crafted. And I mean, it doesn't conform, you know, the rest of the songs don't sound like this one. I mean, it's very unusual on this album. The rest are more standard song structures. And then you've got Paranoid Android, which I think is a great title. I mean, the song notwithstanding, but so I had to go with that one. That track immediately came to mind when we were talking about putting together a top 5 list like this, because I think it's so great.
I totally agree. And Jeff knows that I came close to putting that on my picks. It's a masterpiece. That album is a masterpiece. But like Jeff said, it's so different than the other songs on the album. But that album cannot be categorized. You couldn't say it's a straight progressive rock album. There's a song on that album that it's called No Surprises, and it could very easily be sung by Frank Sinatra. The album is so unusual and so different than the album that came before it, and so different than the album that comes after it. It's just a standalone masterpiece, and that song is the crowning jewel, I feel like, on the album. Everybody go listen to it, and then go listen to Aerosmith, Fine, Fine.
Oh, sure. Nobody saw that coming. I mean, the Bends, great, as great an album as that is, nobody saw OK Computer coming. That just totally out of left field. And it's like, I mean, that is their masterpiece. I don't know that they'll ever record a better album than that one. And I think it's brilliant. It's one of my favorite albums of all time, and in large part to tracks like that and No Surprises. All right, Chris, number 3, our third one.
Yeah, so here's where I get random. I'm going with Michael Nesmith's first album called Magnetic South. Now, this was the first album that he released after leaving the Monkees. So a lot of these songs were written while he was in the Monkees. And track 2 is called 9 Times Blue, which is one of my favorite Nesmith songs. And he wrote it while he was with the Monkees. There's actually, on those Missing Links albums, Jeff, there's a version of 9 Times Blue that he does while he was with the Monkees. And I actually kind of like that version better than this version. But all in all, though, it's still a good song. It's about basically a guy who takes this girl's love for granted. There's a certain something in the way you looked at me and said you'd stay that let me know that I was out of line. I didn't know what else to do, and like a fool, I tested you by demanding things of you which weren't mine. So it's just this, it's a cool country rock song. And I've said this before, Michael Nesmith doesn't get enough credit for pioneering country rock. You know, we talk about the Eagles, we talk about the Byrds, we talk about Graham Parsons, we talk about, you know, Neil Young, but Michael Nesmith's got to be thrown in that mix too. And 9 Times Blue, if you are a Monkees fan or if you're into country rock, listen to that song. It's a cool tune. It's like, it's an earworm too. It gets stuck in your head.
Well, and I'll go a step further, and I will say, even if you don't like country, you will like Mike Nesmith's songs. He's kind of the gateway into country, because when I was listening to the Monkees, I'm like, I'm not a huge country music fan, Yeah, not that I don't appreciate it. I mean, I respect it. I'm just not a huge country fan, but I love Michael Nesmith's tracks. And through listening to Michael Nesmith and appreciating songs, you know, like "Don't Wait for Me" or "Never Tell a Woman Yes" or "Good Clean Fun," you know, kind of country rock tracks like that. It's like, well, you know what? Maybe I do like country a bit more than I thought. And even if you are like, I don't like country, I hate it, you will like Mike Nesmith's songs. And he does it in such a way that you're not feeling like it's too twangy or it's too, you know, the things that maybe put you off about country music. I think Mike Nesmith does it in such a way. I mean, Papa Jean's Blues off the first Monkees album, you know, that's country, but it's so, you know, it's presented in such a way that even the person who hates country music the most can still listen to that and like, yeah, I appreciate that. That's very cool. And I think that's what that Michael Nesmith's gift is, that, yeah, it's country, but, you know, he presents it in such a way that, you know, it's damn good songwriting. It's still got pop music element to it. And, you know, I think Michael Nesmith's a brilliant, very much underrated songwriter.
I don't know why people don't, and to back on what you're saying, I don't know why they don't mention them more often. I mean, everybody's like the Byrds, the Eagles, and I can understand that, but the Monkees, like you were saying, they had steel guitar in their albums. Papa Jean's Blues off of their first record, I don't know what year that came out, 1960 something, but
66, I think.
that's a country song. And, you know, the Monkees need to get more credit. You know, especially Michael Nesmith.
Well, they were doing country years before the Byrds were. You know, the Byrds didn't start doing country music until like 1968. So they were still, Michael Nesmith was 2 years ahead of the Byrds, who many people consider to be, you know, at the forefront of the whole country rock movement.
Yeah. And I get it, you know, Graham Parsons, the Flying Burrito Brothers, all that stuff, but you know, we got to give some credit to the Monkees and Mike Nesmith too. Gary, you have this record, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
That,
a good album.
you know, that it's funny because you were talking about that. Now that album definitely has a twang element to it. But it also, it's an album that kind of goes to different spots, because there's parts on that where they have like a little bit of jam to it that almost go like country psychedelic at times.
Yeah.
On that album, I've never really heard an album quite like that album.
I'm going to call it. I'm going out on a limb. I'm calling it progressive country.
Well, let's coin that term.
Progressive country.
There we
Yes.
go.
There we go. Write that down, kids.
It started today.
Michael Nesmith started progressive country.
Progressive country.
It's a good album. I
It's a great
like that album. I like the fact that there's parts of it that sound like a country song from 1955.
Yeah.
And then there's other songs on there where it's kind of like, I'm not 100% sure what to call that. And I just think it's very innovative. It's a very, very innovative album.
I think we just should call it progressive country.
There you go. Let's start using that term all the time.
All right.
That's cool. We both created a genre this week, Tris. That's kind of weird.
What was your genre?
Street metal.
Street metal?
I was talking about Leatherwolf, and I said, "Oh, it's not quite hair metal; it's kind of street metal." So
Exactly.
Nice.
Sounds good to me. All right. For my next pick, I was going to pull an audible on this after Aaron, but I'm not going to. I went with Wrathchild too.
Yeah.
Just because I can't help but not mention it, because it's just one of my all-time favorite Iron Maiden songs. And the fact that when I was looking at it, and I thought when we started talking about this, and I was at work, I was on my computer for a while, and I was trying to think of, like, you know, some second tracks, and I thought, wait a minute, Wrathchild, they start out with an instrumental, and then it's Wrathchild. I'm like, shit, yeah. So that was like the first one I thought of. Of course, then Aaron gets it before me, but I'm still using it. And what, you know what, I love the fact, I love what you said, Aaron, about this era of Iron Maiden is their Dangerous era. And that's exactly how I feel. Obviously, they did amazing work with Bruce Dickinson, some of the best metal albums of all time. But there's just something special about those first two albums. And it's the newness, the dangerous aspect, like you said. And they never, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm not saying the other Maiden albums are not great. They're just something different. They were just a little bit different. These first two will always have a special place in my heart. And Wrathchild, the vocals this is just a badass song. So I can't take it off my list. Aaron said it, but I'm keeping Wrathchild on here also.
I love the vulnerable falsetto. And that
Yes.
I was voiced
I'm a Wrathchild.
It's kind of like Kiss in a way, where the first three Kiss records are just a little different than everything they did after, even though the other stuff was more popular. It just had a little different element to it. Compare Kiss to Iron Maiden, but it's the same type of thing to me with those bands.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Iconic cover too. Eddie on the front with
Oh yeah, that's the best cover,
blood dripping down off the hatchet.
I love that. That's the best Eddie right there, man.
I wish I would have known we were going to do that. I have like 15 records here I'm just picking out of. So I wouldn't have picked it.
All right, so believe it or not, this next album I'm going to show is one of my top 10 favorite albums of all time. Some people probably find it hard to believe, and I love the second song. It's Graceland by Paul Simon.
Wow.
This album, to me, is Paul Simon's best work, and that song Graceland is incredible. He said that he started to write it. He wanted that Johnny Cash feel, that Johnny Cash, when Johnny Cash performed as like a three-piece. And he didn't know what the lyrics were going to be, but he kept talking. Like, he felt like physically he needed to go see Graceland for some reason. So he just kept saying, like, I'm going to Graceland, Graceland, Memphis, Tennessee. I'm going to Graceland. But what I love about this song is the picture that he paints, where he's like, the Mississippi Delta is shining like a national guitar. I'm following the river through the cradle of what was the Civil War. My traveling companion is 9 years old. He's a son of my first marriage. And I have reason to believe that we both will be received in Graceland. And then he's talking about this woman in his life. And she says, if losing love is like a window into your heart, everyone can see that you're blown apart. And I totally resonate with that. That's like one of those lines that just devastates me. I'm a hopeless romantic. And to be able to, when you're a hopeless romantic, obviously you think, yeah, it's easy to say like, oh, it's love is great and it's wonderful, but you also realize there's an extreme dark side to love. And that if you open yourself up to love, you're opening yourself up to pain, because you can control your own emotions, but you can't control anyone else's. And this song to me illustrates that. And it's almost like Graceland is like church, like it's rock and roll church, right? You're going to this holy place of rock and roll. And yeah, Graceland, fantastic album, one of the greatest albums of all time. And I will tell you, I have multiple pressings of this. The new pressing that's out now is one of the best sounding records, and it's not expensive. It's like a $25 record. Go buy it, kids. You won't be disappointed.
Cool. Have you ever heard Willie Nelson's version of that?
No, but now I'm going to download it.
It's really good. Actually, that's a good album that comes off of Across the Borderline, I think is the name of the album. But he does
Awesome.
he does a really good version of that.
I love Willie Nelson.
Since we're talking about Willie Nelson, I want to mention two albums by him, Spirit and Teatro. Those are two great albums
Yes,
Awesome.
they are.
around that same era.
Well, and Graceland really resurrected Paul Simon's career because he was really circling the drain. He just put out, the album before that, Hearts and Bones, nothing, just kind of like vanished. Nobody was paying attention to Paul Simon. He's kind of a has-been, kind of floundering in the 80s. And then he comes out with a brilliant album like that, incorporating some world rhythms and some different textures that he never used before. And he got a whole new lease on life. And I mean, it really jump-started the rest of his career.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
didn't Rhythm of the Saints follow that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Chris, you should do that Willie Nelson song. I thought about you. I thought about you, Lord. I thought about you. That's it. That'd be a good one for you to do.
Yeah.
All right.
It would be killer.
What album is that off of? That Across the
It's
Board?
off of one of those two, either Spirit or Teatro. I can't remember which one now, but it's off
Okay.
of
All right.
one of those.
Yeah, I
One
haven't
of them.
listened to those in a long time.
Okay, Gary, this is my channel. You want to
I'm
make
sorry.
suggestions to Chris about content for his channel? You do that on your own time. You don't do this. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. All right, Aaron, or no,
So-
where are we? All right, Aaron,
I just show them all.
yeah, we're up.
So I'm gonna go with this one. I mean, I just keep going back to it, and it's just an amazing song. It's actually a reworked song. It was done by a different band, and it's the Four Horsemen from Metallica. And it was originally Mechanics, and Megadeth did it as Mechanics, and had totally different lyrics. And this song, it starts out with "Hit the Lights," and then it goes into the Four Horsemen, which is like 7 minutes long, and it just kicks the Metallica era off right. Amazing song. I love the part towards the end where he's talking about time is taking its toll on you, the lines that crack your face, all that stuff going through all the different Four Horsemen things, and it's just a great song. Amazing guitar, amazing song. Mechanics is faster, and it's the same guitar. What am I saying? Riff.
Song structure. Yeah.
Faster version of the riff. But the Four Horsemen I actually like a little better, even though I like Megadeth a little better than Metallica. But I like the Four Horsemen. It just has a groove to it that kicks in, and the lyrics are amazing. The lyrics are better. Mechanics is kind of like got some goofy lyrics, but they're pretty cool. But the Four Horsemen, I just had to put it on because we used to be the Four Horsemen here too. So I just thought that was pertinent.
Until I screwed it all up. Go ahead,
No.
Aaron. Say it.
It's the Five Horsemen now, so that's even better. 5 is better than 1. 5 is better than 4.
Well,
But yeah, but the Four Horsemen, it's one of the best songs on this record, and this is, to me, my second favorite Metallica record after Ride the Lightning, and a large part because of the Four Horsemen and like Anesthesia and Seek and Destroy, Phantom Lord, all those songs. But Four Horsemen especially just gets me headbanging every time I hear it, and it's always been one of my favorites.
Aaron, you had mentioned Kill 'Em All had like an urgency to it or a youthful energy to it. Kill 'Em All is the same way for Metallica. I don't think there's any other album that sounds like Kill 'Em All.
No, there really isn't. You're right.
Yeah.
It's weird how the first album of bands is kind of like that. You get Appetite for Destruction from Guns N' Roses. It's totally different than all their other stuff. It's like a lot of bands are like that. And then some bands, but the raw energy of this album is just amazing.
Yeah.
Just you feel it.
Yeah.
Feel it. Listen to it. So,
All right.
and then I was gonna show this one. But I just went before. There's a song called Dimes on this. Second song's amazing. But I decided the Four Horsemen was the one I do.
All right, so here I'm interested to see how Jeff's gonna follow Metallica Kill 'Em All. Let's see.
Yeah, it's real hard. Well, and I have to say, I do like the vulnerable falsetto on that track. Tracks at certain moments, but no. So I'm gonna go. I just did Paranoid Android, and as I was thinking about it, this is actually the Paranoid Android for me of the 1970s. I am talking about the title track off of Steely Dan's Asia album. Just a masterpiece. One of the longest songs I think Steely Dan ever recorded. And by this point, Steely Dan had kind of dropped the pretense that they were actually a band. And it just became really Walter Becker and Donald Fagen and a group of hired studio musicians. They used such an army of different musicians, depending on what they wanted a track to sound like. They'd say, okay, we're going to audition drummers for this one track. And sometimes they would even have musicians play a track. You know, they'd play, okay, do the drums on this song, and or do a guitar solo on this song, and they'd audition like the solo or the track that they played, and they would pick a musician based on you know, the feel that they got and how they performed that particular song. But so many different studio musicians. I mean, the cream of the crop, really. But this song is so great because it's just that, like, again, the thing that I like about progressive rock music is that it's a journey. It's not just verse, chorus, and moves on. I mean, this starts out very soft, kind of has some, you know, Asian sounding music to it, some rhythms, and then it goes off into a bunch of different directions. I love at the end how there's kind of that start, stop, and you've got like the drum solo, so many different, I mean, the drums really at the end of this track are what do it for me. But it's just it's such a fantastic, and people don't, when people talk about this album, they talk about Peg, or they talk about Deacon Blues, or they talk about Black Cow, or about Josie, but you don't hear a whole lot of love for the title track on here. But it's definitely, for me, one of the greatest Steely Dan tracks of all time. And it's an epic. I mean, that's the word that I would use to describe it, as, you know, an epic Steely Dan song that they would not record anything like it before or since. And just really musically, you know, very inventive, and you know, they're just kind of flexing their muscles on that track.
What I like about Steely Dan is that you have to actually listen to their music, and you're not going to get it right away. And like you were saying, Jeff, it takes you on a journey. And I never thought about Steely Dan being a progressive rock band, but you're right. They are a progressive rock band. And what I like about them too is it's music for people who appreciate music. So guys like us, I don't know if we all like Steely Dan or whatever, but you know, we can put on a Steely Dan record and really listen to it and hear where they're going with it. You know, I just think it's music for people who like music.
Yeah, and the Steely Dan were like the musicians.
Yeah.
And they were, I mean, they grew up loving jazz. They were huge jazz freaks. But they, you know, I mean, you talk about jazz fusion. Well, Steely Dan, I mean, took it to another level. It's like, yeah, we're incorporating jazz, but it's, you know, the type of jazz that most rock fans or progressive rock fans even would appreciate. Just very unique.
Awesome pick.
Nice. Well, I'm taking a page out of the Aaron Mutha Alamare book. Taking a different album.
Nice.
Going Master of Puppets.
There you go.
Title track is the second song. And I've gone on record saying Ride the Lightning is my favorite album, and it is. Master of Puppets is my second favorite. So I feel like, you know, Ride the Lightning had, you know, following Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning had more of a youthful energy to it as well. But by Master of Puppets, they really sort of hone that sound. And I mean, the title track, Master of Puppets, it's over 8 minutes long. There's different movements to it. There's that midsection where they get into the acoustic. There's the chanting part, Master, Master. So there's a lot of different parts to it. And you realize that this is where Metallica was starting to separate themselves from the rest of the thrash world, because Slayer wouldn't have had an instrumental part in the middle of their song that went to an acoustic thing. You know, Welcome Home Sanitarium, those Slayers and Death Angels and Overkills, they really weren't singing back then. Metallica was, and it all started to kind of come together on Master of Puppets. And I think, you know, thinking about it now, I think the song Master of Puppets sort of has all the elements of who Metallica were. They were heavy, they were thrashy, they were hard rock. They had some acoustic elements. James Hetfield could scream, James Hetfield could sing, and you kind of had all those elements within that one song. So, I mean, what a way to, what a second song to have, your title track.
Chris, I feel like Master of Puppets is one of their greatest songs, if not their greatest song. And I think it totally changed metal. I think
Yeah.
that all the other bands probably heard that one song and went, "Oh fuck!" Like
Yeah.
it was so different than anything on Ride the Lightning or Kill 'Em All, even though it was just equally as heavy. I honestly think like when you hear a song like Megadeth, Holy Wars, which is
Yeah.
a masterpiece also, they had to have been pushed to another level after hearing that song Master of Puppets. There
Yeah.
had to, if there's any competitiveness in them at all, hearing that must have been like, holy shit, like these guys just fucking killed it.
Yeah.
It's progressive. It's 8 minutes long, and it's a masterpiece, no doubt.
And I'm going to use your phrase before when you said, listen to that song, kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to learn something? Listen to the riff in Master of Puppets. That's James Hetfield. That's just him doing that riff with just one hand and a pick. And he is just ripping that song apart.
Yeah.
And you're right, Josh. Like, I think the other metal bands heard that and they're like, oh shit, like we need to step up our game.
Right.
Really progressive thrash song. It's really cool. And I want to mention one other song from that album that's really great is The Thing That Should Not Be. If that would have been a second
Wow.
song, that.
Yeah. That
I
is an
was called-
underrated song. Underrated.
Yeah, it's one of my very favorites. But Master Puppets is a masterpiece.
I mean, look at how cool freaking James Hetfield looks here. I can't get, Jesus Christ, I'm like, look at how cool he looks. I wanted to be him. I couldn't be him. My parents wouldn't let me grow my hair out. I was chubby, damn it. All right, sorry.
Okay. Now are you done?
I'm done. Yeah.
My number 2 pick is off of one of my favorite albums by this band. And it follows one of my favorite songs of theirs, one of my favorite opening tracks. But this is also one of my favorite second tracks. And that is The Ripper
Yes.
by Judas Priest. I love the way it just, Victim of Changes ends. And then they just go right into, you're in for a surprise. You're in for a shot. I love that. I love that song. I love how he does that scream right there at the beginning, and the way it paints this picture of the dark London town and Jack the Ripper going around in it. It's just has the mysterious lyrics of something from years ago, and it feels very English, very British, British heavy metal. And there's really, we're all pretty well familiar with that song. There's not a whole lot to say about it. It's just a kick-ass Judas Priest song, and it's one of their best. It's one of their big classic ones. They still do that to this day. And off of Sad Wings of Destiny, I love it. Not much else I can say about that one.
Yeah, kids, put your Turbo records down. Turbo. But go back and listen to Sad Wings of Destiny and Rockarola, because those 2 albums will kick your ass.
Yeah, these are, they really, you were talking about Metallica and how they changed things around that time period, and they did. And one of the things Metallica did, you talk about them going from just straight up thrash to the different time changes and whatnot. To me, that makes music heavier. If all your songs are just 90 miles an hour, do the whole thing, it becomes boring after a while. Metallica matured as they went along. They didn't become any less heavy. Some people think that, they're like, anything beyond like, the first 2 albums or whatever. But to me, I don't see it that way. But anyway, that's just me. And Judas Priest around this time period, they were also changing heavy metal.
Yeah.
And that's
And
Go ahead.
You go first.
go ahead.
I was gonna say that's the greatest album cover they've got. I love that album cover.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
It's so killer.
I wish they would go back. I wish they'd go back to that font of their name. I like the way they used to write the name.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
But that's kind of an interesting song because it's got that heavy and the screaming vocals, but it's also ominous at the same time. Got this weird, kind of makes you a little bit creeped out, but in a cool way, which I
Yeah,
really
that's
like.
what that's
When
what that's
you
what's great.
least expect me, when you stand it back, I'll attack.
I'll attack, 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 attack.
Yeah, it's a great song. I'm gonna listen to that tonight.
All right. So my next pick is from one of the greatest albums of all time, in most people's opinion, maybe not everyone's, but most people's opinion. And the first song on the album is one of his biggest hits, but the second song to me is just one of the happiest songs of all time. 10th Avenue Freeze
Yeah.
Out by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. I mean, if this song doesn't get you dancing, I don't know what will. It's so fantastic. You know, they wanted Springsteen to be Bob Dylan on those first two albums, which I love the first two albums, don't get me wrong. But he knew this was his make or break album, and he went all in. And it's such a party song, and it's pure perfection. It starts off with those horns. Do, 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 do. And when you hear it live, oh my God, it's incredible. Yeah. And it just, the horns kick in, and it's like those old Stax records, you know, the funk records and the R&B records of I guess R&B, you wouldn't say funk, but R&B records of his youth embodied. And he talks about Clarence Clemens joining the band. They made the change of town and the big man joined the band. And I love that line.
Little girls raise their hands.
Yes, the little girls raise their hand. And Scooter and the big man bust the city in half. I mean, oh my goodness, guys. You gotta love this song. Yeah, fantastic album. They should hand this album out at birth. 10th Avenue Freeze Out. Awesome song. I love
Now,
every
that's
song on that
funny.
album.
You were talking about my Springsteen pick. I thought about that one too, about the 10th Avenue Freeze Out. I love that song. I love, just toward the end, he goes, 10th Avenue Freeze Out, freeze out. They just, he could just take a lyric and just grind it into the dirt like that with that chorus. And he does. And it's just holds that beat, that rhythm all the way through that song. And I don't know. I think that's the first time you hear him on a record use the phrase "a big band," isn't it?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, when he says that, it's just like, all of a sudden Clarence Clemens becomes this legendary character right after that song,
Yep. And to put an African American on the cover of his album, he says now it doesn't seem like anything, but back in the day, there were people like telling him not to do it. Like, it's going to hurt your album sales. And he was like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
That's another iconic cover is that album. Yeah, that's great. Great album.
Great choice there.
Nice choice, Josh.
Thanks, man.
I'm going to go with a song that's a cover song, which I think is better than the original, which is a really great song. And it's after maybe the biggest hit this band did. I'm going with 2000 Man from Kiss.
Nice.
Ace Frehley. It's just, I love how Ace sings it, and I think it's better than the Stones version, and the Stones version is pretty good. I mean, it's the Stones. But I think Ace just brings it alive. He just makes that song alive, and the acoustic guitar, it's just, well, not acoustic, but you know what I mean, the mellower guitar kind of, and then when it gets into it. But Ace isn't the best singer, but he has, it's like, who were you talking about earlier? Like Neil Young. He just has that voice with so much emotion. He just like, you just feel his voice. And especially in 2000, man, it's one of my favorite Ace songs. And from this amazing record, it comes right after I Was Made for Loving You. So they have the hard rock disco, I Was Made for Loving You. Then it goes into the Ace Frehley, Rolling Stones, 2000 Man, which totally makes this album. I mean, it gives it a whole another feel before it goes into Sure Know Something with the great bass stuff. And it brings this album alive. And Ace, there's nothing like old Ace Frehley with Kiss.
And the Stones didn't know it, but they wrote that song for Ace. I mean,
it definitely seems like it. I mean, you talk about picking a perfect song to cover. I mean, Ace, the fact that he was smart enough to think, hey, this would really fit my persona. And, his voice sounds fantastic on that song. That's still, you're right. That's still one of his best songs, even up to this day. And it's a cover song, but it's not a cover song anymore in my mind. That is Ace's song,
Yeah. And I really love that they put that on their Unplugged album with him doing it
Yeah.
Acoustic.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
It's
I think
just
that's
that-
how the song would have sounded if they'd have recorded it 2 years earlier, but they were in the midst of the whole psychedelic thing. They're trying to keep up with all the psychedelic rock that's coming out, the Beatles and all that. And so just took it in a direction that I think, I mean, I like it, but I don't like it near as much as I like Kiss's version. And I feel like, Ace Frehley was brilliant by like, let's take it back to the rock and roll roots. This is how the song should have been recorded and how it would have been, like I say, 2 years before. It's a really rocking song, and the theme, like you say, fits into Ace Frehley's persona masterfully. And it sounds like a Kiss song to me. You could have fooled me that it was, wasn't a Ace Frehley original.
That's one of my favorite Kiss records too.
Yeah, I love it. And it's so crazy because you got I Was Made for Loving You, then 2000, man. It's like they're total opposites. And it's just that's what's so cool about it being right there on the record. Because it takes you, I Was Made for Loving You, and it's just so different. And then makes it this album is actually very eclectic. There's a lot of different sounds on this album.
And Ace has all his songs on that album are great.
Yeah, Hard Times, amazing, yeah. And
Save Your Love.
Yep, Save Your Love. Yeah, they're great. This is a very underrated album, and this very people just kind of give it crap, and it doesn't deserve it because this is one of their best records. You're right, Chris. Great one, great record.
That and Unmasked.
Yeah, Unmasked is great too.
Yep.
Another one with a lot of Ace songs that are really good.
Two sides of the coin.
To choose from.
Talk to Me. Yeah, they're all good.
All right, my number 2 is You Gotta Be Crazy.
I almost picked that.
Yes.
Me too. I almost did too.
Damn it, this was, the last hurrah of Pink Floyd before, Roger Waters took full creative control on The Wall, and the rest of Pink Floyd were kind of contributing musicians. Dogs has got a great David Gilmour vocal. David Gilmour just shreds time and time again on this track. This track is, for all intents and purposes, one long guitar solo, but it's so melodic. I love the different effects that they use. Like when they go stone, 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 and it just keeps repeating. Then you got the ominous, Richard Wright's ominous synthesizers. And, talk about Animals being a dark album. I mean, Dogs, the only reason why Dogs is not the lead-off track on this album is because Roger Waters felt that this was such a dark album that he had to put Pigs on the Wing at the beginning to kind of bookend the album and at the end, because he wanted something to kind of lighten the mood, because the rest of this album is just so dark and ominous. And Dogs is just from the opening, that acoustic guitar strumming, it's like, something's very unsettling about this track. And it just kind of puts you on edge all the way throughout. The keyboards are very unsettling. The vocoder, which they used to great effect on this track, and Sheep, just kind of, gives you chills a little bit. And it fits right in with the lyrical content about, the dogs are, the people in society that are oppressive and exerting control over the masses. And it's just a real, people that will, do anything to get ahead. They don't care. They'll stab, best friend in the back. They'll do whatever it takes to do to get ahead and get on top. And it fits in with the whole Animals theme. But this track and Sheep were actually written right after Dark Side of the Moon, and they were going to be on the album that followed. But Roger Waters came up with Shine On You Crazy Diamond and felt, well, we can't have an album with just 3 songs on it. And so ended up having them put these tracks to the side for a moment while they did the Wish You Were Here album, and then they revisited it when Roger Waters came up with the concept for this record. But Dogs is, I think, David Gilmour's shining moment with Pink Floyd, because it is all him, and it might be Roger Waters' lyric, but I mean, everything else about it is David Gilmour.
You know what I had forgotten about, Jeff, though? Roger Waters comes in the last 3 minutes and he sings that last 3 minutes of the tune, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that is very true. And I like that too, because, you know, same with Not Now, John. It's sort of the same idea where, you know, Roger Waters at the end, where it's like, I need more bile, I need more
Yeah.
I need more venom. You know, he'll step in and he'll sing, you know, the lyric, even though he let David Gilmour have like the first 75% of the song. But yeah, thanks for reminding me about that, because yeah, he totally does. But you know, David Gilmour steals the show with his guitar.
He does.
That's just to me another good collaboration effort by those two couple rock giants working together, making a magnificent track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Although, yeah, I don't want to, you know what, though, you're right. You talked about Richard Wright's keyboards in there, and that does that, you know, when it's going, that is pretty cool. That's creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a masterpiece of a song, and it's funny because when I went through the Pink Floyd albums, because I kind of picked all my favorite bands and was like, all right, what's their best second song? And that was the album I had in my stack of 30. But yeah, I love that song, and to me, that's got to be my favorite Pink Floyd album.
I did kind of think that somebody else was going to pick that.
That was part of my thought process when I picked my 5. Which ones will nobody pick?
Yeah.
All right, we're
Number 1. All right. Well, this is where I get cool again. Going Black Flag, and I think this is Aaron's favorite Black Flag album, Slip It In.
Yep.
And the second song on here is called Black Coffee. Such a killer song. I mean, the lyrics are literally Henry Rollins is screaming, drinking black coffee, drinking black coffee, stare at the wall, black coffee, drinking. And it keeps going, but it's like just this frenetic, he's got so much emotion as he's singing this song. And I mean, the whole album is awesome, but that second track, Black Coffee, has always been one of my favorite Black Flag songs. And I think you like it too, Aaron, because they were starting to bring in some heavy metal riffs in this album.
The guitar is amazing on that record.
Yeah. It's just a great song, and it's upbeat. It's in your face. Henry Rollins just at his best. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, my number pick is off of one of my favorite albums. And woman, I ain't joking. I got to ramble. I'm going with Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. Second track off of Led Zeppelin's debut album. I know it's a cover song, but they make it their own. It's got your Led Zeppelin secret ingredients right there, right? It's got that acoustic stuff going on, and then it kicks in, you know, boom, boom. And it's just a great song. It has a little bit of everything that Led Zeppelin was known for, and they were showing their cards right there on the first album. There's just that song. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard that song, you know, since I was a kid, and every damn time I still love it. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You.
I love the galloping riff, like you said. And he's like, baby.
Baby, I'm gonna leave you, woman.
Great White does a great version of that too.
They do.
Great White
Jack
does a good
Russell's
job
great.
covering those Led Zeppelin songs. Yeah.
I love the way that track ends too, where home, and then you off the acoustic, and then how it ends is just so like perfection, as if the song wasn't good enough. They end it perfectly also.
I agree.
All right. So my number 1 is also from probably the artist's biggest album, or one of his biggest albums. And the first song was one of his biggest hits. But track number 2 is one of my favorites. Here Comes My Girl. Legend has it that Jimmy Iovine met with Tom Petty and he sang him Refugee and Here Comes My Girl. And Jimmy Iovine said for the first time and only time in his career, he ever said, you don't need any more songs. With those 2 songs, this will be a monster album. But what I love about it is like, he's talking. He's like, just like talk about like at the end of the day and you're beat down. But then she puts her arms around me and I can somehow rise above it. It's like, it's just so good. And I even love in the middle where it's got that little breakdown. You don't know where the song's going to go. And he says like, watch her walk. Like, hey, buddy, look how she's walking. That's my girl, And then it kicks back in where he rambles a little bit. And then the infectious chorus, here comes my girl. Here comes my girl. It's so good, so beautiful. Such a legend. Died way too young. One of the greatest artists of all time, in my opinion, Tom Petty. And an amazing band that's underrated. The Heartbreakers are fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and just to show you how awesome the Heartbreakers are, our man Johnny Cash chose them as his band on his second record.
you got it. Yeah, Tom Petty played bass on that record.
Yeah.
That's
When
great.
his talking on there is so badass too. Sometimes I don't know why, but this whole time just seems so hopeless.
Hopeless. Yeah.
So cool and so almost like Bob Dylan on Subterranean Homesick Blues. He's kind of got that like put on, twang that he has, but it is so cool. And then he looks at, then he breaks into song.
She looks me in
Look
the
her in the
eye.
eye.
Yeah, we gonna last forever, man. I can't begin to doubt it. It's so good. Yeah, it's like a little bit of like Peter Wolf, a little bit of Bob Dylan, a little bit of Tom Petty. Yeah, it's just so good. Yeah,
Awesome song.
fantastic. I love Tom Petty. It puts me in such a good mood. I mean, like he's just one of those artists that I can't get enough of.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of them here, but I really wanted to go. No, I won't do that. I was really close to picking the Hunter from Dokken, but I'm
That's
going
a good
with,
one.
I'm going with
Yeah.
Holy. It's one of the most iconic songs of all time. It's
Yep.
it's one of Ronnie James Dio's most known songs, and it's even been covered by was it Killswitch Engage or something that
Yeah.
covered it.
Yeah.
And but just that song is just so great, and it brings back so many memories for me. Hearing it back in high school, and it's just it starts off with the wind and all those weird sounds,
Yeah.
almost like the beginning of Black Sabbath in a way, but not really. Just that same ominous feeling. We're saying ominous a lot today. I don't know what's going on here. And it's just such an iconic song. I just love it. And Ronnie James Dio, of course, one of my favorite singers. And it's one of my favorite songs still, even though every song on this is amazing. This is a perfect record as far as I'm concerned. His first 2 are. I think every song's great on both of them. But especially the song Holy Diver, it's just something about it. It's just really unique. His quirky lyrics. No one writes lyrics like Ronnie James Dio. Yeah. Where he can make all that weird stuff he talks about with the, magic and mysticism and make it not sound cool and not sound goofy and, convoluted. So I had to go with Holy Diver over the Hunter, Midnight, which I wanted to, and Slave and Grind. There was a few.
I love all of those songs.
Go thrashing mad, more and more. I got a whole other
Aaron,
But
what's the second song on Trick or Treat soundtrack?
After Midnight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love that song. That's one of my favorite songs.
We should do
Maybe
a-
the best song that Fastway ever did.
We should do a Ronnie James Dio drinking game. Like every time he says rainbow, we have to drink.
Or there's a couple other words we could throw in there too, but rainbow would be a good one.
Yeah.
How about words like and the and me?
Yeah. Or elf.
Oh, what's becoming of me? Jump,
Yeah.
jump.
So Aaron, Holy Diver or Last in Line? What's your favorite? And
Holy
album?
Diver, this much because I
Yeah.
love the chains are on stuff like that. Those deep cuts on Last in Line are so good.
Yeah.
They're like neck and neck to me. That one and 1A and 1. I love them both almost equally. But
I
Holy
like
Diver,
Last in Line better, but like you said, it's like it's a hair. They're both masterpieces.
they are absolutely.
Yeah.
The only reason I think I like Last in Line a little bit less is just because of the song Mystery, because it's not quite as it's a little keyboardy.
Right.
But that's the only reason I like Holy Diver a little more. But Rainbow in the Dark's got a little of that, but it's a little tougher, a little more tough.
Yeah.
But Shame on the Moon, that's just amazing. Stand Up and Shout, every song. Gypsy, Caught in the Middle, Invisible. Oh man.
Yeah.
love this album.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yep.
Jeff.
All right.
And he does a really good falsetto on Holy Diver too.
Yeah.
He sounds
I
very
like when his voice cracks.
Yeah.
I would
that's
pay to hear
horrible
Neil Young
falsetto.
cover Holy Diver.
All right, my number one from my favorite album. I know you can't see it very well. It's a White Album, Dear Prudence. And it struck me recently, like 5 minutes ago, that it kind of follows the structure. Stairway to Heaven. It's sort of a little bit like that if you think about it, because it's got kind of that acoustic opening, and then it starts to build. You get the drums that comes in, and then at the end, it's just kind of like a free for all. You got Ringo banging the hell out of the drums. It kind of builds to a crescendo. And it ends with "Won't you come out to play?" Just like, and she's by. And I'm not suggesting that Dear Prudence is as great as Stairway to Heaven, but just in terms of the way the song is structured, how it just kind of builds like that, it just kind of reminded me of that. But Dear Prudence, I mean, it is so great. John employs the finger picking style that Donovan taught him when they were in India. It's about Prudence Farrow, who was Mia Farrow's sister, who was in India with them, and she got paranoid and kind of locked herself away in her bungalow when she was there, or her hut, whatever the hell they were staying in, and wouldn't come out. And so John Lennon wrote this song to kind of entice her to come back out and be with the group. But it's just a real one of John Lennon's more tender lyrics. And he sings it very sweetly. It's Paul McCartney on the drums. Ringo's nowhere to be found on this track. In fact, Ringo doesn't drum on the first two tracks of the White Album at all. But nonetheless, Paul McCartney's bass playing is amazing. That whole bass line that he does is so inventive and so unusual and so melodic. Everything about it is just really great. And I always had a soft spot for that track.
I'll go with you on that, Jeff. And I actually like that better than Stairway to Heaven, even though I love Stairway to Heaven. But I'm a huge Beatles fan, so
Right.
that progression. I never thought of that. And kind of Deep Purple followed that a little with Child in Time, and then a year later, Stairway to Heaven did the same thing. So.
Yeah, for sure.
And Priest, Victim of Changes.
And Sweet FA.
And
Stick
the
to your guns.
Ramones with Blitzkrieg Bop.
Yep. And Aerosmith with Love in an Elevator.
Black Flag would Slip It In.
Ron McEwen, the Gentle Balloons.
I almost picked a Rod McEwen album tonight, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to subject everybody to that.
Oh,
I should have picked Jack Pyle, the second track on Jack Pyle's record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jack Pyle. We need to break out the Jack Pyle again.
Oh.
Another one I wanted to use was
Wow.
Scared.
Oh yeah.
It's a great song.
That's one of my grails.
Yeah. Or THC Groove.
Well, I almost picked Free Will by Rush. Almost picked that
Put on
one.
Box.
I almost picked
um,
Xanadu by Rush.
I almost picked Auntie's Municipal Court from Birds, the Bees, and the Monkeys, which I love. Serious.
I almost picked American by Lana Del Rey, Daydreaming by Radiohead, Parasite by Kiss, Master of Puppets, Tougher Than the Rest, Dogs, and I went looking for Warren Zevon's Los Angeles by Lucero. Those are the ones I almost picked.
Wow.
I almost picked Little Red Corvette too.
I almost picked Sugar Walls by Sheena Easton.
There you go.
I don't know what the song is about, but
I do, but it's yeah.
I think it's about a vagina.
what?
Actually,
I
think
take that pick back now.
Sugar Walls? I don't know.
Gary's never going to listen to that album the same way again.
Yeah, because I was too stupid to ever think of that on my own. You know.
I'll send you my 45 of it.
I think I'm okay with this.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to do something that nobody's ever done before. I'm going to put together a Death album and a Monkees album in the same picture. Look at that. Crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's by
I know how Aaron loves the Monkees.
oh yeah.
Who doesn't?
You just haven't heard good Monkeys is all.
Exactly.
All right.
I like Gorillas. See, they're up there. Gorillas. They're kind of monkeys.
Nice. Waylon.
Waylon and Iron Maiden together. There we go.
There you go. Everybody hold up 2 eclectic albums. Yes.
All right, now that we got that out of our system, thank you, everybody, for joining in. Always good to have the 5 of us together again. Hope you all enjoyed watching it, and tune in next week for another exciting adventure in tomfoolery and Henry.
Yeah.
All right, see ya.